adult animated Xena animated.
That's a great idea. That's a cool idea. How come nobody ever thought of that before?
Welcome to Watch Mojo's Poppin the Culture, your weekly entertainment touchpoint. And me, well, I'm your host with the most, Mr. Hollywood himself, Matt Demers. Such a great show coming your way. I'll be speaking with the one and only Lucy Lawless. That's right, she does one of the voices in the adult animated movie, The Spine of Night. We talk about that and so much more, so stick around. But first, it's time to jump in to those Hollywood headlines. All right, as we do each and every show, we kick things off with a bit of a dissection of some of the more interesting developments out there in Hollywood. And as always, I need help. I need help doing it, and I'm always happy to bring this gentleman back on the show. It's Cassius Morris, host of Watch Mojo's Inner Sleeve. Hey, Cassius, how's it going? Happy New Year, by the way.
Matt, Happy New Year, man. Thanks for having me up back on the show. And hopefully your viewers and listeners recognize me, because I think every time I've come on, I've had a different hairstyle on this show. So.
You know what? That's right. Yeah, you had. Is this common in your life? Because you had like I want to call it the Slim Shady look.
The Slim Shady. Yep, that was the first one.
Yeah. Now we're back. Now you're pretty dark right now.
Yeah. Back to black like Amy Winehouse. You know, we had to go back to the original.
And at one point you had the shaved, right? You were pretty buzzed.
That's right. Yeah, and that'll probably be coming back. So always keeping it fresh for the viewers out there.
We should do a beauty podcast next.
I think that's coming up. It's on the roster for sure.
Yeah, I'll do beard maintenance. It'll be a whole thing. Okay, but let's jump into speaking of beauty. This show is a beauty that I am obsessed with. So I had to talk about it because Cassius, Cobra Kai has returned to our lives. Season 4. You can binge it. I'm sure half the viewers and audience have already binged it because Netflix has made it that easy to do so. But here's the thing. And it's in its 4th season, just wrapped. They're saying number 5 is on its way, but critics, audiences love it. This is a show that keeps getting bigger and better. No spoilers, of course, but I've seen a few episodes. I'm really digging it. Why is this show so huge? And by the way, do you even watch this?
I've watched a good amount of it. Yeah. Whether it's at friends' houses or at family's house. I think part of it has to do with the sort of master sensei vibe. I think any sort of vibe of learning something as a viewer or watching someone else learn something, I think can totally pull you in. And also maybe sort of the roots with the original franchise might be part of it.
No, you're right. Nostalgia, I think, is king in this show. Because the Karate Kid, I mean, I actually recently rewatched them. Okay. And they're great, but they're a product of the time. They're very 80s, right? So the show taps into that, but obviously they're incorporating new stuff. So you got the younger cast that's going through it, but those old characters are done really well. It's very funny. It's a comedy and knows what it is. And I think you would actually really dig the soundtrack, Cassius.
Okay.
Don't you love a show with a great soundtrack? Like the music makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference. It's essential. And, I think like you look at a movie that even maybe isn't even that good, like maybe the new Space Jam. I think the soundtrack definitely goes a long way for that.
No, for sure. 100%. So you'll dig the Cobra Kai soundtrack, especially when Johnny Lawrence is doing a thing. They play a lot of heavy rock, which is awesome.
Epic.
So this show definitely is epic, and like I said, I am very much looking forward to the next season. Just keep it going, Netflix. Don't stop this train.
How many seasons do you think they can get away with now? Because we're going to be at 5.
We're going to be at 5, but they're introducing. So what they've been really good at is bringing elements of those past movies in and plucking them into the show. So there's another, and again, no spoilers. I know people don't plug your ears, don't turn it off. Trust me, but we're setting it up for another new little twist for season 5. So things actually got pretty dramatic at the end of this one. So I'm excited. I think they can keep it going because it's a light watch. It's episodes range from like 30 minutes to 40 minutes. So it's a quick watch. It's light. Like I said, it knows what it is. 80s film franchises, Cassius, any that you think can make that transition to television, because this is clearly a success story. I think the sports, because this Karate Kid was obviously a sports film. I think that might lend itself here. And I was trying to think, Rocky, we have the Creed movies, which is great, but I think maybe a Rocky show along these lines, maybe a little tongue in cheek could be fun. I don't know. Anything that comes to mind for you?
That definitely crossed my mind. I don't know. What if there was something having to do with Die Hard? Maybe Bruce Willis teaching a new
Oh,
generation. I don't know. It could be sort of like a Cobra Kai in the vein of Cobra Kai.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of room for shows because listen, like I said, the movie Karate Kids came out in the 80s, and now we're like 20
It's insane.
2022, and we've got this franchise. So franchises never die. It's never too late for a sequel or a reinvention. The key is to do it right.
It's
Right.
true. It just goes to show how long you can keep it going. And I mean, you look at the new Spider-Man. I'm seeing memes now of saying, Sony and Disney looking at their stacks of cash, or Sony and Marvel, and saying, okay, maybe we'll do one more Spider-Man. But it's true. I mean, it's timeless, same story. And I like that. I also like a franchise that it can center around different people playing the characters. Like, it doesn't have to be a specific person. I think that definitely lends to a much longer life for a franchise also.
Yeah, no, for sure. And speaking of franchise as well, that's going to bring us to topic number 2 here, because Harry Potter is a huge franchise. People love their Harry Potter stuff. Are you a fan, by the way?
I'm a huge fan, man.
Are you
Ever
really?
since I
Oh, I
was
had
a
no idea.
kid. Yeah. Yeah. Ever since a child, I was always I gotta say Team Gryffindor. I don't want to sound too vanilla here, but Team Gryffindor. What's your team, Matt?
I'm going to be honest with you. It's kind of embarrassed to say this
Oh
because
no.
I'm a film critic, and obviously a pop culture connoisseur. I love it all. I've only dabbled in the Harry Potter world. I don't think I've seen
Wow.
all the movies in their entirety,
Ooh,
but I'm very much aware of it. And trust me, I know people that love it and love it a lot, maybe a little too much.
yeah.
So, so good news for Harry Potter fans around the world. They started off their new year with a little reunion that took place where we had the original stars come back and chat it up and go down memory lane. I'm glad that you're a fan. By the way, do these reunion shows, does this excite you? Because they did one with Friends, which was a big deal. We had the Fresh
Mhm.
Prince of Bel-Air one. This is obviously a big one. Reunion shows in general, it seems to be a bit of a trend right now. Yay, nay?
Mhm. I like these a lot. Coming from a music background mostly, whenever one of my favorite bands would do a reunion tour, reunion concert, it would always put a smile on my face, ear to ear. And seeing these TV shows and movies do it is interesting because, it's such a tight knit bond, I think, for the cast in such a short period of time. You look at a band 30, 35 years. I mean, when you're making a movie, probably less than a year, you guys are working together for, 18 hours a day. So yeah, always really interesting to see them come together. And I like the one with the Parent Trap that they did a couple of years ago. That was with Lindsay Lohan. Ones like that are always interesting,
Yeah, I
especially when they
know.
grow up. Yeah.
No, you're right. And it's always interesting to hear the behind the scenes stories and get the revelations to surprise fans. A few of them came out in this one. I mean, I won't go through them all. There's some lists online that talk about all the stuff that came out. Christopher Columbus directed the first one after his daughter made him read the books. She's like, you got to read this, do this movie. Daniel Radcliffe, his parents didn't even want him to take the role, apparently. Can you imagine?
It's
Uh,
insane how many people almost were not in this or had to be coerced to be in this. I guess, like,
oh,
when you're first starting something, you're not going to know how big it's going to be.
exactly. And there's that game Quidditch. I mean, I don't need to
Mhm.
explain it to you, but it's like, they're on a broom and they're playing. I used to live near a park, and I saw people would play it. They would play Quidditch.
Running
They would
around with
have,
a broom.
yeah, I didn't know what was going on. And someone was like, oh, they're doing that Harry Potter thing. Well, J.K. Rowling, who wrote the books, she created a Quidditch rule book just for the movies. So it's out there. People play it.
Legend.
Yeah, absolutely. Radcliffe and Gary Oldman, very
Mm.
close. And I always like to hear this too, because you see these relationships on screen and it always feels so genuine. And half the time you hear the backstage stories. Well, they didn't really get along,
Exactly.
but this was a real, they're calling it like a father-son relationship. And that's, I like hearing those type of details.
No, that's huge. And I mean, for me personally, the third Harry Potter, my favorite Harry Potter, I think Gary Oldman's performance as Sirius Black is probably his most underrated performance. I mean, I think he definitely gets his flowers, gets his due as an actor. But in
Mhm.
terms of that performance, definitely just incredible work. And definitely a moment too in that third film where Harry Potter became, and I think it's mentioned in the article, more of an adult franchise, more of a bit of a darker
Yeah,
franchise. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Radcliffe had a crush on Helena Bonham Carter.
Mm. Well, who doesn't? No.
Bit of an age gap. Hey, I like me some Helena Bonham Carter. And Watson, she wanted to leave. This was actually kind of one of the main highlights here. So she almost left before the Order of the Phoenix. She had to be kind of coerced back in. That would have been a big blow to the series, right? Emma Watson is such a key to those movies.
They would have had to make up a serious plot twist. And, I couldn't see it. And I know it's easy to say because, we were presented these people, so it's hard to picture other people, but I really couldn't imagine anyone else playing those main three characters. I mean, just pitch perfect portrayals, picture perfect. Yeah. And no wonder they really went after Daniel Radcliffe so much because he was the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And they all and also they talked about how it was hard for them to, because they were cast so young and they're doing all these movies back to back to back. It was hard for them to really find themselves. So really to break character outside of the movies. So that was interesting because you never really think about that. These kids don't really have too much time to become kids when they're playing these iconic characters. A lot of pressure. So interesting stuff. Yeah, I do recommend people check it out if you haven't already. But we have to end our Hollywood headlines with a little bit of a celebration of a career for a lovely lady who left us right before her 100th birthday, Miss Betty White. Man, so by the time this drops, I mean, obviously the accolades, the tributes will have poured in, but I mean, we got to pay our due to the GOAT, Betty White, just an icon. I mean, and across generations. I mean, Cassius, you're pretty young. She started her career in 1939, but people in your generation will know her from all kinds of things afterwards. She was on our TV screens and movie screens and even radio for 8 decades. That is insane.
Man. That is so insane. When you look at a legend of the business, a legendary entertainer, I think Betty White is one of the quintessential names. I mean, to have had a career in anything for 8 decades is incredible, but especially in Hollywood, there's it's a sad reality. I'd love to see this change, but especially a lot of female actors, they don't have as long of a career as Betty White has had. So definitely legendary, something that should be, remembered forever. And I think something that sort of maybe people didn't realize how amazing it was because it kind of became a meme, like, oh, Betty White, she's here again, she's here forever. But really, when you sit down and think about it, it's like, yeah, she was something else.
She really was, and so funny, man. Just a killer wit when she was on like talk shows. So like not even in movies or scripted stuff and TV shows, when she was just herself in talk shows,
just naturally.
She had that one liner, and she played into it. She knew that she looked like everyone's grandma, but then she kind of had that potty mouth sometimes. They don't make them like they used to, and we'll miss some Betty White. Man, what a legend.
Did you ever see the photos of her with Eazy-E from NWA?
No.
They were all cozied up at a booth in a restaurant. So, I mean, Betty White connections all across the business. You never know.
I always say this. If you meet someone in your life that didn't like Betty White, that's a red flag. Okay.
Don't trust that person.
No, you don't need that negativity in your life. Don't trust that person. Yeah. So there you go. All right, Cassius. Let's continue the fun with our Beyond the List segment. So stick around. Let's jump into it. All right, Cassius Morris, it is time to go beyond the list. And this is where we do this, and it's fun because we dig deep in the vast archives of Watch Mojo. We pluck out an old top 10 list and we go beyond that list. This is really all about us. We give our own personal opinions and try to discuss it a little bit more. Did Watch Mojo get it right or wrong? Today's fun because it's Celebrity Feuds. Now I went with a more recent one, so it's of the last decade. So obviously this came out prior to 2020. But what we'll notice, and this is kind of why I wanted you to chime in, a lot of musicians are feuding with each other. And I mean like 90% of the list. Wait a minute. Why is this, by the way? Do musicians, is it an ego thing?
I think it's an ego thing. I mean, maybe actors are better at pretending they like each other because that's their profession. No, but really, I think, yeah, it's an ego thing. And I think in the world of music, it really does feel like crabs in a bucket sometimes. I think people are so desperate to make it, a lot of them. And then when they finally do make it, it's like they're just clinging on as much as they can. So sort of that knocking any opposition out of the way type of energy.
Yeah, you're right. That industry, by the way, music industry is very cutthroat. We're starting things off with number 10. These are two big names. I thought maybe this would be closer to the top of the list or at the bottom. Eminem versus Machine Gun Kelly. MGK. A couple of diss tracks went back and forth. I was all over this when it came out. Did you follow their little beef, if you will?
I definitely did. This was a weird one because these are two guys who have inevitably, I think, been compared to one another. There's not that many blonde, skinny white rappers from the Midwest that make it super, super big in the business. That being said, though, I don't think these guys really have anything to do with one another. And I'm not sure why MGK was talking about Eminem's daughter on Twitter. Definitely sort of reason to make a father mad. I don't know, Matt. Like, I would have been aggravated.
No, I would have been too, but like I said, I was highly entertained by this because they did the whole diss tracks, and Eminem had one, and then you wanted to wait. Machine Gun Kelly, what was he going to do? Is he going to do one? I don't know. That's kind of fun. They both played into it. I don't know. Is the beef squashed? Probably not, but I haven't heard anything recently.
I mean, I don't think it's active squashed. I'm not sure. But one thing I do know is that when Eminem made Kill Shot, which was his response to MGK, MGK was actually seen popping champagne and celebrating, listening to it, celebrating the fact that Eminem made a song about him. And another funny anecdote about these is that producer Ronnie J actually helped put together both beats. So he was actually making a beat for the Eminem diss track and then the MGK diss track simultaneously.
Amazing. Yeah. No, and I can imagine like Machine Gun Kelly. Yeah, because when Eminem says your name, you're going to be in the headlines. What's that thing? No, even bad press is good press, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Any press. Yeah. Okay, number 9. Another musician's going at it. Lana Del Rey, Azealia Banks. This one got a little nasty. 2018. Got fiery in the media. Now, Del Rey went after Kanye West for wearing his MAGA hat and supporting Donald Trump, but then Banks in turn called Del Rey a hypocrite because she worked with ASAP Rocky, who's been accused of hitting women, basically. So there was a lot. Things got nasty, and this is all on socials, right? So social media makes it so much worse because it's so easy just to call someone out.
It gives it that whole other layer. And, in the whole era of calling people out, cancel culture, politically charged debates being supercharged, I think this is just sort of had bad news written all over it. I think the last thing celebrities need to do is get involved in politics, but specifically the last thing they need to do is get involved in other celebrities' politics. At the end of the day, we're entitled to our opinion. We don't have to agree with one another. And I think there's curtains at the voting booth for a reason. And I think that, we should definitely retain that even on social media.
Yeah, you're right. You're just asking for it at that point. Nicki Minaj. Number 7 was Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. You could probably put Nicki Minaj next to, I don't know, Miley Cyrus and a whole list of other people that she's had something to say about. What was their beef? Nicki Minaj, Cardi B. Boy, I can see them going at it.
Yeah, that's a good question. What was the beef? I think they had some sort of spat at the Met Gala. Actually, they almost fought. So that's what it was. And Nicki at this time, 2017, I gotta say, I always liked Nicki Minaj, but I think at this point she was particularly unhinged. She was going on massive rants on her Queen radio show on Apple Music, screaming at the top of her lungs about Cardi B, screaming about Travis Scott and how he didn't deserve the number 1 spot over her. Just a bad era for Nicki. And I honestly think Cardi B looked quite a bit better in this beef, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you touched on a lot of that. And apparently Minaj blocked Cardi B on Twitter, which only added fuel to the fire.
Of course.
And then there's criticizing about parenting. So once you start going after the kids, like you said with Eminem, then it gets personal. So yeah, that was only fuel to the fire. So, all right, number 6, man, we can't get I promise you, this is not a music only list of feuds, but we got another one at number 6. It's Solange and Jay-Z. I mean, come on.
I mean, unbelievable. The fact that they were caught in this.
Do we know the elevator? Do we know?
Yeah, the elevator. Yeah. So what happened was, we don't know what it was about, but Beyonce, Jay-Z, and Solange, who is Beyonce's sister, were in the elevator, and then Solange ended up hitting Jay-Z. Again, we don't know what happened, but
a lot. She went after him.
She went after him, and I think it's good that this was caught on tape. In my view, I don't care who it is. I think people shouldn't be hitting each other. you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much where it ends, bottom line. So yeah, but definitely not a good look for Beyonce's family, man. That was if that's what we're seeing behind the scenes, imagine what we're not seeing, you know.
Exactly. So the official release from them when this was all said and done is that they've worked through it, whatever this was. But there was all kinds of rumors and innuendos about what it was about. Maybe Jay-Z do some cheating. We don't know.
Well, he did at one point, so it could have been about that.
That's right. It was in the Beyonce's, was it her Lemonade?
Lemonade, yeah. And then he talked about it as well on the 444 project. So yeah, definitely a tumultuous time for Beyonce and Jay-Z.
They've worked it out. Apparently. Dwayne. Okay, now at the halfway point, we get some actors in here, and this is so topical because it's back in the news, Cassius. I don't know if you're following. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Vin Diesel. So what happened was Dwayne Johnson was obviously brought into the Fast and Furious franchise. Great addition, by the way. And he had a lot to say about Vin Diesel's bad attitude, how he was late all the time. He basically called him out for being unprofessional, which I've heard from a lot of people, and you'll see it a lot in the headlines that Vin Diesel kind of walks to the beat of his own drum, does his own thing, and maybe disrespects some people along the way. So what's happened is Johnson left the franchise. Diesel, like the main movies, Diesel wants him back in this latest movie and made a plea. This is all recent on social media saying, hey, my kids call you Uncle Dwayne. We want you in this movie. And Johnson is saying, nope, this is you're trying to manipulate me through the media. You know what's wrong with you. Yeah. So this is getting nasty.
It's about drive. It's about power. It's about being professional. Apparently, these are the rules that we have from The Rock. You know, this is funny because I've heard this about a lot of big actors. I've heard this about, you know, A-list household names. They show up to the set, and I think at a certain point they just don't care. You know, a lot of the times they don't have to audition anymore, and they're being pampered. Yeah. And apparently, a lot of these guys do not take the time to learn their lines, and they'll hold up the entire day. You know, I think it's good that The Rock called him out. I mean, at the end of the day, The Rock doesn't need to be taking, you know, BS from anybody. He is the highest paid actor in the world, is it next to Daniel Craig?
Yeah, so, he tops that Forbes list every year as being one of the best paid. And yeah, he's got a lot of drive, and I think that speaks a lot to his character, that he still kind of wants respect, you know, for him and the crew in the movie. So I think
he could just cash the check and go home. He doesn't have to say anything. So
exactly, yeah, no, because you know he would get a big payday with that new Fast and Furious. I don't even know how much zeros would be on that paycheck, but it would be a lot.
I don't even think he knows at this point. It's just too full, the account.
Absolutely. Mariah Carey at number 4 and Nicki Minaj. Oh, here's Nicki once again.
Nicki.
Mariah Carey has that. She's got the diva, right?
Yes.
That label has been put on her over the years. And Minaj is just one. She won't hold back. There's no filter there. Not really sure what this was about. Oh, this was on American Idol. I remember now. They were both
the classic
judges.
Season or the modern day classic. No, that was I think that was a weird pairing. You know, I think honestly, whoever decided that there need to be two powerhouse female sort of pop icons on the lineup, I think it just wasn't a good choice. It's kind of like, you know, putting Gene Simmons up there when Steven Tyler was on. I think it's just too much of the same, too much headbutting. You know, could possibly occur, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with Nicki. She pulled no punches even on television.
Yeah, no, and Carrie didn't enjoy that experience. She's quoted as saying going to work for that American Idol season with Nicki Minaj was like going to work every day in hell with Satan. So there you go. Apparently she didn't enjoy it.
Well, I want a job in hell then, because apparently he pays a pretty good salary. So
there you go. Katy Perry's number 3, and she's paired off against Taylor Swift, T-Swizzle. I don't think this is the last time we're going to see Taylor Swift on this list. I don't know. I think these are both pretty likable. I mean, Taylor Swift obviously has a legion of fans, but I think Katy Perry too. So at this point, you're just kind of dividing the audience. But this all had to do with their music and both coming out around the same time. And there was a lot of behind the scenes kind of, she said this, she responded this. I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of silly. The media, I feel like, blew this one out of proportion.
I think so. I think it's another situation of, just too much comparison. I think when two artists are in a similar field and they're both being constantly brought up, I think it's inevitable for people to naturally want to compare them, and it can sort of create this. But I don't think there really is a comparison. I think Taylor Swift and Katy Perry both really good at what they do. I found it funny that Katy Perry likened Taylor Swift to quote Regina George from Mean Girls, which is interesting. Could you see that?
I didn't, but I definitely know who Regina George is, and yeah, very
I
interesting.
could kind of see it, but from the outside looking in. But again, I guess you got to take it all with a grain of salt. You never know the motivation behind somebody saying something like that.
Yeah, and before people drop in the comments, yes, I'm aware that Katy Perry cameoed on Taylor Swift's "You Need to Calm Down" video. So apparently, the olive branch was extended, and all seems okay. So there you go.
And she calmed down. So there you go.
Number two, we're getting close here, and we're sticking with the musics. We've only had one non-musical feud.
One non-music.
This is amazing. All right, Drake is in here. Drake and Pusha T. Yeah. So when it comes to Drake and the hip hop community, and maybe you can back me up on this, sometimes he can be a bit of an outsider where people don't look at him as a real hip hop artist. He's been accused, and this is what's happening here with Pusha T, accusing him of ghostwriters. And there were some personal attacks. It looks like scathing diss track on the part of Pusha T against him. So I don't know. And then he brought up Drake, possibly being a father of a stripper child.
Man, I got to tell you, in all of my time observing hip hop, this was probably the most ruthless, scathing diss I've ever seen. He went after Drake's hidden son. He exposed who he had the son with. He attacked his sick friend who had a disease. He attacked his parents being divorced. He attacked his ethnicity. I mean, this guy went all the way in to a point where even Drake said he thinks that he crossed the line. And, I just, back in the day a couple of years ago, when this first happened, I was all team Drake. Team Drake all the way.
Yeah.
I never knew anything about Pusha T, but now after some time has gone by and the dust has settled, I got to say, I would not want a problem with Pusha T if I was a rapper, because he is a menace.
Are you a Drake fan? Do you like music wise?
Yeah,
do you enjoy
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I like Drake too. I like Drake too. But yeah, no, it got nasty, as you mentioned. That's why they're number 2 on this list. Honorable mentions, we'll throw them out just for fun here. Watch Mojo had them. Orlando Bloom and Justin Bieber.
Oh, that's a pretty fight. Fight of the pretty boys.
That's right. Don't hit the face.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow. That one I kind of need more details on, because I would love
I missed
to
that
know.
one.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some Googling after this. But Martha's got it. She's been in the pen. Don't mess with Martha Stewart.
Gotta give it to Martha.
Kim Kardashian and Chloe Grace Moretz. Oh, I remember this one. Yeah. I forget who started it, but Kim Kardashian was like, "Who's that?" She something along those lines, and Chloe Grace. Yeah, that one got a little nasty back and forth. Chris Christie and Snooki. Chris Christie, a politician, went after from Jersey, and Snooki, the Jersey Shore. So apparently there was a back and forth there. Wonder why. And then Miley Cyrus and Nicki Minaj. Oh, that's the one I mentioned not long ago. So that didn't make the official list, but it does make honorable mentions. Are you ready for number 1, Cassius?
I'm ready to go. I want to see what we have here.
The biggest celebrity feud of the past decade, according to Watch Mojo, was Taylor Swift versus Kanye West and Kim Kardashian.
Of course.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
What can you say about this one? I mean, this was I think it's so multi-layered. We go all the way back to Kanye. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say exactly that. When Kanye said, I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce was had the best video of the year. Yeah, no, it goes way back to that. And then it just skyroled. And then Kardashian got involved in it.
That's the thing. See, so I think it came to a head when Kanye was writing the song Famous for his St. Pablo record, or The Life of Pablo, sorry. And he has a line with an expletive saying that he may still have some potential with Taylor Swift in the future. Let's just say that. Now the song came out. Taylor said she had no clue about this, and she was vehemently upset. She had,
Oh yeah, and
would have
then
never allowed this, right?
Kim had the recording or something, right?
Kim had the recording of them telling her it was going to be there, them reading the line to her, and her signing off on it. So I don't know, Matt. I mean, when I hear the comparisons to Regina George, I can kind of see that with an act like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. And say what you will about the Kardashians, right? They're always, people have all these negative things, but if you watch their show, and I've done in passing, who hasn't at this point, you know that they're genuine, right? There's something about it that's genuine, even though on the outside they're quote unquote maybe a little too fake, but when they talk and they put it out there. So I really think that, you know, Kim ended up looking pretty good in this particular duel with T Swizzle.
This is true. She stood by her husband, man. The whole time they were together, she stood by him. So that is commendable for sure.
That's true. And I'm always afraid, I would be afraid to date Taylor Swift because no matter what happens, you're probably going to end up in a song.
Like number one hit about you.
Yeah. I know. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Cassius, that was fun. That was fun going back and looking at those celebrity feuds. Hey man, I can't thank you enough for joining me once again here on the show.
Matt, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's do this. Let's jump in to our Mojo Chat of the week with Lucy Lawless. The movie is The Spine of Night. It's this dark fantasy horror animated film that I cannot get out of my brain. And I mean that in the best way possible. It needs to be seen. And I can't wait to talk all about it with one of the voice stars. Lucy Lawless is here. Hey, Lucy, how are you?
I'm great, Matt. Thank you for seeing me.
Hey, well, thanks for chatting about this movie in particular, because listen, as we head into kind of award season, a lot of the movies that you'll see that came out are very kid friendly, right? It's got that child, you know, you think animated, you think, oh, I'll bring the family, bring the kids. This is very different, and I love me something different. Disney, it's not. Explain to people what they can expect out of this one if they check it out.
If you are not somebody who partakes of a bit of weed on occasion, or if you've never had magic mushrooms, this is your chance to experience life on mushrooms without, you know, imbibing anything, without eating a darn thing or smoking a darn thing. So it's this really, it is a trippy story, and it's about, well, what the hell is it about? It's about saving the world, and it's about greed and all this stuff. But my character, I play a hag from the bog. I'm a bog hag called Zod, who has, she's a shamaness. And she has this garland. She's completely naked except for this garland, right? And
story of my life.
Yeah. What? It's completely naked under those clothes. You're completely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I know. Anyway, she has this magical garland which has crazy metaphysical powers, and of course, the evil Patton Oswalt wants it, and anyway, all the dudes are fighting over it, and she's kind of got to save nature. Does she save the world? I don't know. Does she save cosmic life? I think so. Anyway, you tell me. Watch the movie and then get back to me. What happens in the end?
Well, I think that's one of the things that I personally like about some of these films is that everyone could take their own little thing away from it, right? I don't know. I mean, this isn't a movie that's not going to spoon food you every part of the narrative, which is great. It's narratively challenging in the best ways possible. One of the things that I also loved about it is the look of it. You look at something like this, and you're like, wow, this is almost a throwback. They're calling it kind of like a
totally
like geek nostalgia. I read. What is the process called? I had it written, the
rotoscope. It's where they
so
they take real actors and they have a special camera. It is really old technology, right? There's so many easier ways to do it, but for some reason these guys chose to do it because they love the feeling of it. So it is, to our modern eye, quite primitive, and but it's primitive nature is what makes it cool, and the limitations of budget make it cool, because they they had to use whatever actors were at hand before they went and got funding for professional actors, I guess. So we are having to lip sync to performers to somebody else's cadence, and it's kind of strange. But being a bog hag, I've got a bit of an accent, so it's okay that for me to lip sync somebody else's unusual cadence. And it just adds to it kind of has a lean in quality, because everything's just a little off, and it makes it edgy. Everything old is new again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad that the things were unusual behind the scenes, because it makes things unusual on screen. It all kind of ties together with a movie like this.
Yeah.
I was just moments ago, Lucy, going through your personal filmography to see kind of your animated voice work. So you're not a stranger to this. You've done a few voice performances. Yeah, well, you did some stuff on the Ninja Turtles. I mean, The Simpsons, you played yourself. Is this something that you enjoy, the voice?
I really love it, but it takes a while to learn how to do it. And if you only do it sporadically, then it's going to take a really long time. And, I look back at some of the things I've done and just go, oh, that was a mistake. I didn't know how to pull it off, and I won't do that again. But I enjoyed this one because I really got to put my own print on the character, and everybody else's efforts to that point took me somewhere I would never go on my own. Do you know what I mean? So it was a great, experientially, it was a departure for me as well. I wasn't fully in control.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when you do these voice performances, you're not in there with the rest of the cast, right? It's just you and like a thing, and you're reading a thing.
I was you were in totally different countries on different continents. Yeah.
So a very
bit
different...
of a leap of faith, about how it'll come together, but that's the producer's job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it did come together in a fantastic film. I do recommend everyone go out and watch it. And we are seeing now, Lucy, a rise in that kind of adult animated space. It's become a white hot this year. There's a show on Amazon called The Incredibles, which is great as well. Do you think you would go back into that adult animated space? I'm going to recommend an adult.
I'd love to. Yeah. What are you going to recommend?
Adult animated Xena. Animated.
That's a great idea. That's a cool idea. How come nobody ever thought of that before? Yeah.
Okay. I'll start the GoFundMe right now. I'll start the petition.
That's a super cool idea.
No, I love it. I think a lot of fans are really discovering that there's so much more to animation than what they might be used to. So, in this movie,
I agree. And in the time of COVID, where it's awfully difficult to film with mask regulations and all those kinds of things, socially distancing is impossible in our business because people are working on your face all the time. And anyway, so animation is a natural fit for life in the times of a pandemic.
Just another means to get our stories. We love it. And we love you. And I thank you for your time today, Lucy. I really appreciate it. Well, that's going to do it for another episode, everybody. My thanks, of course, to Cassius Morris for bringing the fun. Always great to chat with Cassius. And hey, Lucy Lawless, how cool was that? And hey, thank you for watching and listening. Hope you're all having a wonderful new year. We'll see you next time on Watch Mojo's Poppin the Culture.